This is the brand new DJI version 2, and just like last year, DJI has set out to take the video industry by storm. Let me explain. What's up nerds, welcome back to the channel. So this is the brand new, just barely released DJI Wireless Mic version 2. There are a whole slew of new features to this system, including redesigns, AI audio features, and 32-bit flow. This entire video, I will be recording the audio using the DJI Mic 2, recording internally 32-bit flow, and in the camera. Full transparency, DJI emailed me like 2 weeks ago and asked if I wanted to review this product. They overnighted it to me, and I've only had about a week and a half to kind of test this and put it through its paces. So because of that, consider this more of a first impressions review, given that I wasn't able to bring this onto any like freelance projects. So most of my impressions and testing was from controlled situations here in my studio, but for the time frame, I did my best. This video is not sponsored by DJI. They did send me this product, but they don't get any input in the recording or production of this video. So rest assured, my words are my own. So with this new kit, just like the original one, you get a travel bag, you get a charging case, 2 transmitters, 1 receiver, as well as accessories, including a 3.5 jack to the camera, 2 windscreens, and a USB charging cable. For starters, the travel bag has a brand new redesign. It uses this zipper function and has 3 different compartments in there to hold your accessories and your charging case with your transmitters and receiver. The 3.5mm cable to the camera does have an update. It's now angled instead of straight, but it's still not coiled, which I'll address later. The transmitters also have a new redesign. You can kind of see them here in my hand. It's got this new glossy finish on it, and you can see the internal electronics and motherboard through the glossy finish, which looks really, really cool. And you get this big honkin' DJI logo right on the front of it. I'll talk about how I feel about that later. But as far as everything else on the transmitters, it's basically the same. You've got a magnetic clip on the back and a USB-C port, a record button, a power button, and a link button. The receiver also has a redesign, or more of an addition. It now has this dial on the top right side to navigate the menu system, as well as adjust volume settings. I think that's a really nice feature to complement that OLED touchscreen. Makes it really easy and intuitive to navigate the menu and different settings of the receiver and transmitters. The charging case does have a locking mechanism now. On the previous version, a lot of people would mention how easy it is to have your mics just fling out of the case because there's no locking mechanism. Well, rest assured that this ain't going anywhere. This is nice and secure, and that locking button just is an easy function. The case also seems to be a little bit bigger. It's more just longer, not necessarily wider, probably to accommodate that dial addition on the receiver. Back to the transmitters for a second. The top mic design is a little bit bigger. It's kind of like this microphone pop filter sort of thing. It covers the entire top of the transmitter and has that 3.5mm jack for accessories or lav mics, which DJI does have a new lav mic that they launched with the system. I don't have that, but it's $40 and looks like a good option for this kit. Moving to audio recording, there are a few updates and new features. You'll find all the same things you did in the original version. The first one, the biggest selling point of the system, is 32-bit flow internal recording. You can get up to 14 hours of 32-bit flow audio in each receiver transmitter, which for me, that's plenty of time, but maybe you guys think differently. There is also an extended battery life, so now you're getting 18 hours of battery life. That's using the case. Each transmitter has about 6 hours of battery life per charge. There have been some enhancements to the overall audio quality recording when recording into the camera. I didn't notice a huge difference necessarily, but I will say that there does seem to be a little bit more mid boost in like the EQ, but it didn't sound like a huge difference. They've also added some AI features, including background noise reduction and voice enhancement. This is a combined feature that's controlled in the receiver, and you can turn this on for each transmitter. It affects the 32-bit float recordings as well as the in-camera 24-bit recordings. It's a pretty cool feature. This is something that you see on a lot of like budget brands like Folame or Neewer kind of feature this to give like a selling point. And on those systems, it's not super usable in my opinion. It sounds a lot like you're underwater, but in this system, I do think it is usable. Now there's not a ton of cases that I can see myself using that feature, but when I need it, I'm glad it's there for me to use because honestly, I think it is much more usable than the other brands. A cool new setting that's been given to these. I did do a little bit of a test down in my basement next to my furnace. I'll just let you listen to that. All right, I'm currently down here in my creepy basement, right next to my furnace that is currently running. I think this is the equivalent of like trying to talk while there's a bunch of noise going on, especially this big, loud fan that's happening right here. So right now, this is the noise reduction voice enhancer feature off. This is the clean audio. You're listening from the camera right now. So this is 24-bit audio, not 32-bit. But the 24-bit audio, this is the raw audio. I'm gonna turn the enhancer on. Now the enhancer is on. Doesn't make that big of a difference. If I get closer to the fan, does it get louder? Are we looking over here? And what I've kind of noticed from this setting is that it does slightly sound like you're underwater, but it does clean up quite a bit of that background noise. And the biggest difference I noticed is between the 24-bit and the 32-bit. So now I have the noise reduction and enhancer off. I'm gonna switch to 32-bit float. So this is internal recording while connected to my shirt. And this is the clean, raw audio. Now this is with the voice enhancer and noise reduction on using the internal 32-bit float. What I noticed is that I thought this just sounded a lot more full. The more information that you get from that 32-bit internal recording, I think gives the recorder a little bit more to work with this voice enhancer noise reduction feature. Noise reduction is off, and just for the sake of holding it in my hand and showing you the difference between having it this close to my mouth rather than on my chest, this will make a really big difference. So this is without the enhancer and this is with the enhancer. Having it this close to my mouth makes a really big difference. And this is why I tend to hold these hybrid lav mics rather than have them clipped to my shirt. And again, I think it makes a really big difference to be holding it close to the microphone, but you know, it does kind of defeat the purpose of compact and hands-free, I guess. But this is one of my favorite ways to use these microphones. Anyway, there is a new setting called auto gain control. So basically you can pick your specific camera in the settings of the receiver, and they've got a whole wide range of every camera brand and every camera within that camera brand. But I was able to select my Sony FX30 that I'm recording on right now, and I'm using that setting for the auto gain. And that's a really cool feature. It basically just automatically chooses the correct amount of gain for that specific camera, making it a lot easier to set your levels and make sure that they're accurate when you're doing solo recording stuff like this. These also have Bluetooth connectivity, which I hooked it up to my phone, and it's actually pretty dang good. I've used it for a couple of my videos and Instagram stories over the week, and even used it for some videos that I do where I feature some records that I play on my record player over here, and it just gives me a little bit better of a sound quality when I'm filming on my phone. So until now, you've been listening to the mixed audio from this microphone. Let's switch over to the raw audio. Now you're listening to the raw audio from this microphone, and for the sake of this raw test, I will be reading one of my favorite excerpts from the internet. This is the 32-bit float internal recording. The FitnessGram Pacer test is a multi-stage aerobic capacity test that progressively gets more difficult as it continues. Now I'll switch to 24-bit in the camera. The FitnessGram Pacer test is a multi-stage aerobic capacity test that progressively gets more difficult as it continues. Now, because I know you guys want this test as well, I'm gonna clip this to my shirt for the next little bit. This is the raw audio 32-bit float. The FitnessGram Pacer test is a multi-stage aerobic capacity test that progressively gets more difficult as it continues. And the 24-bit. The FitnessGram Pacer test is a multi-stage aerobic capacity test that progressively gets more difficult as it continues. Feel free to play that back and hear the differences. I'm back to the mixed audio now, and I've been using the 32-bit float audio for basically this whole video because I think that is the best audio quality from this system. The 24-bit just seems a little too tinny for me. And that makes sense given that it's less data compared to 32-bit. Now, if you don't know what 32-bit or float audio is, there's a ton of resources on the internet that can break it down much better than I can. But in simple terms, it's basically capturing the broadest range of audio information that it can, making it way easier in post-production to pull down your gain levels or lift them up without sacrificing audio quality. So like if you hear that really crunchy peaking sound that is just completely unusable, that's nearly impossible to get with 32-bit float. It's not impossible, but it's pretty close. Now, considering the pros of this system, the new bag and case design is awesome. I love that they added that latch there. Looks really, really good. Just the overall build quality lets you know that this is coming from a premium brand like DJI that has been making products for a long time and does a really good job at it. Also, how's the magnetic sound? I typically hold the mic because it sounds much better when you're up here by your mouth. Anyway, people like the difference, and this is probably the majority of ways people are gonna be using it. I also think the 32-bit float is a game changer. I've been using 32-bit float audio on basically all of my audio recording devices for the past 2 years. This is the Zoom F3. This has 32-bit float. I have the Zoom F6 that has 32-bit float, and a product that I'm sure you guys are curious with comparing to, the Rode Wireless Pro. also has 32-bit flow. This has been my go-to audio kit since August when I picked it up, and I will be doing a comparison video between these two systems that should be released within the next couple of days. The extended battery life is really nice, getting just a little bit more power out of these things, not needing to recharge the case over and over again. Now, there are a few things that I was bugged by. First of all, that 3.5mm cable is terrible. It was terrible in the first version, and they kind of fixed it in this one. It's now a right angle, which is nice. That should have been there in the first place, but it's still just really stiff. And the jacks are like extra thick for some reason, so they just take up a lot of unnecessary space. This is from my DJI Mic OG set. I bought myself a Rode coiled cable because this just feels a lot more sleek and better in my opinion. Now the transmitter, it looks really, really cool, but there is so much branding on this thing. The original mic design was subtle and still spoke DJI. It has this nice matte black finish, but there's only one logo and then a small logo on the actual clip. And I get it, brand awareness is a thing. You want people to know that they're using your brand, and that's understandable. But was 4 logos necessary? I think if they would have made this white logo on the front like gray or transparent or something like that, it wouldn't be as noticeable. Now I'll talk about the glossy finish in a second, but then on the magnet, you also have 2 different logos on here. The simple logo, but then you turn it around and you have this like graphic design in your face logo. And I'm like, I definitely think that the original design of the transmitters is better as far as look and hiding it on somebody's clothes. Now the glossy finish was also a step backward in my opinion. If you look at the Rode system, they have always used a glossy finish on the front of their transmitters, and it is really reflective and noticeable. On this mic, a big reason people shifted towards it is because it wasn't as noticeable. The logo pops out just a little bit, but it's not nearly as distracting as this glossy finish that they've added to this. Yes, it looks really cool to see the motherboard and stuff, but as far as hiding it on somebody's clothes, definitely could have done the original design over this one. If you want to access the internal files within the transmitters, you have to plug them in via USB-C, which is completely understandable. And typically I'm only using 1 transmitter in my situations, but if I'm using 2, that could potentially require me to use 2 USB cables or to, plug one in and then unplug it and then plug the other one in and transfer files. Just adds a little bit of unnecessary time. What I would have liked is if when these are connected to the case, that we can just plug the case via USB-C and transfer the files doing that. That's the way Rode does it, and it's awesome. And lastly, I would have loved to see a locking mechanism with the lavalier mics. I can just see a lav popping out of this really easily. So yeah, a screw-on system would have been a really cool addition. Hopefully that testing was what you guys were looking for. If there was something I missed or something that I should have tested, let me know in the comments because I can include it in my comparison video. All right, my overall thoughts and recommendation, first impression. First of all, the price. This kit is retailing for $349. At first I was kind of thinking, okay, I think it'll be around $330, kind of like the original kit was. But when they said $349, that kind of changed my thought process quite a bit. I know it's only like a $20 to $30 difference from where I was hoping. But if you look at some other kits out there, they seem to offer a little bit more for a little bit more. And that's something I'll go over in my comparison video with the Rode system, but I do wish that that price would have been a little lower. That's US dollars, by the way. Now, as far as audio quality and whether or not you should upgrade from your original kit if you have one, I think if you have that original kit and you use it all the time for fast audio capture. I'm meaning like once to 3 times a week, you're using this thing constantly, it's got wear and tear all over it, then I think this system is a no-brainer for picking up. That 32-bit flow is gonna make a huge difference in your production workflow. And so I think if you're looking just to upgrade, you love DJI, don't wanna look at other brands, this is well worth the upgrade for sure. Now, if you don't have this system and you're looking for a first-time kit, I think this is also a great option for that situation. Definitely worth looking into. But if you're in between this kit or the Rode kit or maybe some other options out there, I would wait until I do my comparison video because I've got a few more things to talk about that might sway you one way or the other. Now, third situation, if you do a lot of live events, I'm talking live streaming, capturing people talking on a stage or live streaming on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, stuff like that, you're not gonna be able to take advantage of that 32-bit internal recording. So in my opinion, I would stick with the original system if you have it, or save yourself $100 and pick up the original system. system. It's still gonna have great design, good ergonomics, good accessories, and it's gonna have that 24-bit audio recording that will be good enough for you in that live streaming situation. Before I saw the price, I was like, yes, this is the system. It's smaller, it's sleeker, it's better, this is the way to go. But now, I'm not so sure. So stay tuned for my comparison video and let me know your thoughts and first impressions in the comments. Like I said, if there's something that I didn't mention or test in this system that you were hoping for, let me know ASAP in the comments and I'll try to include it in that comparison video. But with that being said, thank you so much for watching. I hope this video was helpful for you in learning a little bit more about this system. And if you enjoyed it, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that bell button so you never miss out on new young filmmaker content. Good luck filmmaking.